Well, Britain is facing the same issues as Australia when it comes to immigration numbers. The UK's migrant population is set to rise by 315,000 people a year, according to new forecasts from the Office for Budget Responsibility. It comes as the Conservative government attempts to stem the constant flow of illegal channel migrants crossing over from mainland Europe. Joining me from London is Sky News Australia contributor Emily Carver. Emily, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Wow, 315,000 people a year. That's the population of Cambridge and Oxford combined. How is the UK preparing to accommodate all these people?
I mean, it's absolutely crazy at this point. How many times has the British public voted in favour of reducing immigration? Countless times, and yet the government continues to hand out visas as if they're sweeties. It has actually got mad. Last year, 745,000 net migration, 1.4 million visas given, and only a fraction of those are work visas. So the OBR, which is our economics watchdog, has finally admitted that not all immigration is actually cost-free, and that maybe, just maybe, it may have an impact on our public services. At the moment in Britain, we have an acute housing shortage, housing crisis, which is pushing up rents, pushing up mortgage payments, pushing up the cost of housing for British people in this country. You have an NHS that is struggling under demand, huge waiting lists, record waiting lists, millions of people waiting for basic treatment. You have an education system that is massively stretched, and you don't have enough people paying enough tax to be able to support it all. The government really needs to do something about it, and at the moment they're failing.
Well, you'd hope so. That's just extraordinary. I mean, how are you going to fit all these people in? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Now, Emily, how is this for a farce? Britain's first transgender newsreader, India Willoughby, has reported Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling to police for, quote, misgendering her in a social media post. What has happened here?
Well, essentially, J.K. Rowling, we know Harry Potter author, has for a long time been talking about how biology matters when it comes to women's rights and, of course, the big, furious debate over transgender rows. She's made it clear that she believes transgender women are not biological females. India Willoughby has been harassing her for years, and J.K. Rowling makes that clear. So while India Willoughby may claim that J.K. Rowling is misgendering her and therefore it is a hate crime, J.K. Rowling has quite a strong case that India Willoughby has in fact been harassing her, and that could be a crime. But I think the broader point that misgendering, calling a transgender person by the wrong pronoun, could potentially be a crime in this country is just absolutely absurd. And I hope this does not take up any of our justice system's time.
Well, I mean, how are you supposed to know what people's pronouns are or how they identify? How are you supposed to figure that out? And this is the fine line that we're heading to, not just in the UK, but in Australia, because it offends people. But how are you supposed to know, Emily?
Well, we're getting to that point where being offensive can be seen as a crime. It's all subjective. That's the problem with hate speech and hate crime. It's all about the person, whether they feel offence, whether they believe it's a hate crime. And there's no way of being completely independent on decisions like this, really. You can't really be objective. But there's absolutely no way that this should be a crime in this country. But unfortunately, free speech isn't so free in this country.
No, clearly, and you're right, it's completely subjective. It's just extraordinary. Now, let's move on to the dreaded duo, Harry and Meghan. We know already that their professional interests are continuing to diverge, and Meghan is now desperately being the key word, trying to relaunch her career. And so she has been booked to appear at the South by Southwest Festival in Texas on a panel to discuss challenging stereotypes and breaking barriers. Emily, who would seriously pay to hear her speak?
Well, this sounds exactly like a cookie cutter version of her podcast, The Archetypes, which ended up being a bit of a flop. And the Spotify executive said that they were grifters because they didn't do any hard work. But this is what Meghan Markle wants to be. She wants to be all about breaking stereotypes, breaking barriers. But of course, she's only risen to such prominence because she married a prince of England. So there you go, there's the thing. But the thing is, that, apparently, according to reports anyway, Meghan Markle and Harry are trying to improve their PR in Britain. which the arrogance of thinking that you can say whatever you like about the royal family, you can suggest there are racists within the royal family, you can say it's hell living and working with the royal family, and then try and regain your PR with Britain and try to get the British people on side. I think they've got a lot of hard work to do if they want to regain any popularity in this country.
Yeah, all the best to the two of them as they desperately try to reclaim their image, as you said, as if the UK public want anything to do with Meghan Markle after some of the horrible things she's been saying. Emily Carver, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us as always.